Have you ever woken up feeling the weight of the day pressing down on you, even before you get out of bed? With so many uncertainties and demands in our world, wouldn't it be powerful to have something that grounds you, brings you peace, and strengthens your purpose each morning? Let me share a memory that really brought home the importance of morning prayer. One morning, I woke up feeling overwhelmed by everything on my plate: work, family, and responsibilities that just seemed to pile up. I decided, instead of diving straight into my to-do list, to spend a few quiet minutes in prayer. As I surrendered my worries to God, I felt a calm wash over me, a reassurance that I wasn't carrying the day's weight alone. From that day on, I made it a point to start each morning with prayer, and the peace it brings has completely changed the way I approach my day. Morning prayer is more than a simple tradition, it's a way to set the tone for the day, aligning ourselves with God before anything else takes over our attention. In a world where we're constantly pulled in many directions, having those first moments focused on prayer gives us a foundation of peace and clarity. It grounds us, making it easier to navigate whatever challenges or surprises come our way. One of the key benefits of morning prayer is the sense of peace it brings. In those quiet moments with God, we find a stillness that the world simply can't offer. The Bible speaks of a peace that surpasses understanding, and morning prayer opens us up to that experience, allowing God's presence to calm our anxieties before we dive into our day. As it's written in Philippians 4 verses 6 to 7, we're reminded not to be anxious but to present our requests to God, trusting that His peace will guard our hearts and minds. Centering ourselves amid worldly distractions. Beyond finding peace, morning prayer helps us center our thoughts and emotions. Before the day's demands and distractions pull at us, we have a chance to focus on what truly matters. This moment of connection with God is like a compass, reminding us of our values and purpose so that we're not swept up in the chaos of the day. Consider how easily we can be consumed by our to-do lists, social media, or the pressures of work. Morning prayer becomes a powerful reminder to live intentionally, choosing to seek God's will rather than letting distractions dictate our day. When we prioritize this connection, we're affirming that our relationship with God is more important than any worldly task or accomplishment. Shifting from worry to gratitude. One powerful aspect of morning prayer is how it shifts our focus from our worries to our blessings. For example, let's say that as you start your morning prayer, you begin by expressing gratitude for simple things: a safe night's sleep, a new day, or even the people in your life. This simple act of gratitude can transform your outlook, moving you from a place of stress to one of appreciation. On days when I'm particularly anxious or feeling overwhelmed, I've found that starting with gratitude shifts my entire perspective. Rather than immediately worrying about what might go wrong, I'm reminded of all the ways God has already blessed me. This gratitude grounds me and helps me to carry a positive, open-hearted attitude into the day. This simple practice of morning prayer, especially when combined with thankfulness, makes each day a little lighter and more meaningful. It's an opportunity to start each morning with a renewed sense of trust, focusing not on what we lack, but on all that God has already provided. Trusting in God is a cornerstone of faith, and it's often in the quiet moments of prayer that we practice and deepen this trust. Morning prayer becomes a time to lay down our worries and allow God to guide us, trusting that His plans for us are good, even if they're not always clear. Philippians 4 verse 6 encourages us to not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. This verse is a powerful reminder that we don't have to carry our burdens alone. Instead, we can bring them to God, surrendering our fears to His care. The importance of surrendering our fears. Letting go of control is challenging, especially in a world that encourages us to make things happen through our own effort. But in reality, our wisdom and strength are limited. Morning prayer offers a space to release our grip on our fears and trust that God sees what we can't, guiding us in ways we might not expect. To make this idea more relatable, consider the analogy of holding onto a heavy stone. The more tightly we cling to it, the heavier it feels, weighing down our hearts and minds. But when we finally open our hands and let it go, we experience relief. Surrendering our worries to God works the same way. When we release them, we make room for God's peace, lightening our load. Learning to trust through a difficult decision. There was a time in my own life when I faced a major decision. I remember feeling overwhelmed and unsure of what to do, carrying the weight of this choice with me every day. I prayed about it each morning, asking God for guidance but struggling to let go of the anxiety I felt. It wasn't until I truly surrendered the situation, trusting that God would lead me to the right answer, that I felt a shift. One morning, during prayer, I felt a deep sense of peace, as if God was saying, "I've got this. Trust me." After that moment, I began to see opportunities and solutions that hadn't been clear before. Looking back, I realized that God had been guiding me all along. But I needed to let go of my fear to see it. The decision I ended up making led to unexpected blessings, ones I couldn't have planned for myself. Applying trust in daily life. Stories like this help us understand that trusting in God doesn't mean all our problems vanish. Instead, it transforms how we face them. When we trust God, we open ourselves up to the possibility of seeing His work in our lives in unexpected ways. Each time we let go of a fear or worry, we're stepping deeper into our faith, relying on God's strength instead of our own. Trusting in God is a daily choice, one we're invited to make every morning as we bring our petitions and concerns before Him. And while the outcome may not be what we imagined, we can rest assured that God is working all things together for our good. Gratitude is a powerful practice, especially in prayer. By beginning our mornings with thanksgiving, we shift our focus from what we lack to the blessings we already have. This perspective change isn't just a mental adjustment, it's a spiritual transformation. When we approach God with a heart full of gratitude, we open ourselves to experiencing the abundance of His presence and provision in our lives. The act of thanksgiving and prayer reminds us that God is our provider, constantly working behind the scenes for our good. By choosing gratitude each morning, we acknowledge His hand in our lives, even when things don't go as planned. As the original content beautifully illustrates, Thanksgiving draws us away from our anxieties, encouraging us to see beyond our immediate worries to the bigger picture of God's faithfulness. How gratitude shifts our mindset. It's easy to get caught up in what we're missing, goals we haven't reached, challenges we're facing, or things we wish were different. But Thanksgiving redirects our minds toward what's already been given, helping us recognize how much we have. Over time, this practice not only changes our perspective but also fosters a deeper trust in God. Gratitude reminds us that even if our lives are far from perfect, we're still surrounded by blessings, big and small. Personal story: choosing gratitude over frustration. There was a time when I had a particularly difficult day. I felt overwhelmed by small frustrations that kept piling up, and by the evening, my mood was tense and irritable. However, I remembered something I'd heard about gratitude, how it can completely change your attitude in challenging moments. So, despite feeling frustrated, I took a moment to list out a few things I was genuinely thankful for that day. I started with the simple things: a warm meal, good health, a friend's encouragement, and the strength to get through the day. As I focused on these blessings, I noticed my frustration beginning to fade. My relationships, especially with family and friends, felt lighter and more positive. And I could feel the stress melting away. That choice to focus on gratitude changed my entire outlook, not just for that evening but also for the days that followed. The habit of gratitude and its impact. Developing a habit of gratitude is transformative. When we start each morning in thanksgiving, we build a foundation of joy and peace that can carry us through whatever the day holds. This habit doesn't make our problems disappear, but it allows us to face them from a place of abundance rather than lack. With each day, as we choose to be grateful, we strengthen our faith, grow closer to God, and enrich our relationships. Thanksgiving in prayer is more than a ritual, it's a lifestyle choice that invites peace, perspective, and a deeper connection to God's provision in our lives. As we cultivate gratitude, we find ourselves more content, more joyful, and more at peace, knowing that God's blessings surround us in ways both seen and unseen. The sacredness of prayer and its role in daily life. Prayer isn't just a ritual, it's a sacred dialogue with God, a powerful and intimate moment when we open our hearts to the Creator of the universe. It's a time when we can bring our joys, fears, and needs before Him, knowing that He listens and cares. The original content describes this connection beautifully, noting how prayer offers comfort, peace, and clarity, especially in a world full of distractions and uncertainties. Prayer invites us into a deeper relationship with God, a relationship built on trust and openness. When we enter into this sacred dialogue, we aren't just asking for things or expressing our worries, we're aligning our hearts with God's will and allowing His presence to fill us. Prayer becomes a transformative experience, grounding us in God's peace and giving us the strength to face each day with hope and purpose. Prayer as a morning foundation. Starting the day with prayer sets a spiritual foundation that can shape our entire day. In my experience, taking even a few minutes each morning to speak with God has become a crucial part of my routine. I've found that, on days when I skip this time of connection, I feel more scattered, less centered, and more easily stressed. However, when I take that moment to pray, my heart feels lighter, and my mind is clearer. It's like inviting God to walk with me through everything the day may bring, and that brings a sense of calm that nothing else can provide. In my routine, I often include a simple prayer as soon as I wake up. Before checking my phone or getting pulled into the demands of the day, I take a moment to thank God for the new day, to ask for guidance, and to seek His peace. This practice has become a grounding force, helping me start each day with a focus on what truly matters. The peace and clarity that follows. There's a unique calmness that comes after time spent in prayer. It's a peace that goes beyond words, a deep reassurance that God is in control no matter what challenges lie ahead. In these quiet moments, I've found that God often brings clarity to situations I've been worrying about or gives me a fresh perspective that I hadn't considered. Prayer doesn't always change our circumstances, but it changes how we see and respond to them. Personal insight: prayer is a source of strength. Over time, I've come to realize that prayer strengthens my faith in profound ways. When I commit to this daily practice, even on days when I feel too busy or tired, I find that my resilience grows. I'm reminded that I'm not facing life's trials alone, that God is with me, guiding me, and providing for me. This sense of His constant presence builds a faith that is resilient, grounded in the knowledge that I am held by His unfailing love. For instance, there was a time I was navigating a particularly difficult situation that left me feeling anxious and uncertain. I remember spending a few moments each morning in prayer, asking God for clarity and strength. Each day, I felt just a bit more grounded, as if I was slowly gathering the courage to face whatever came my way. Prayer became my lifeline, helping me move forward one day at a time, trusting that God was with me in every step. Building resilient faith through prayer. As we integrate prayer into our daily lives, we're not only connecting with God in the moment but also building a faith that endures. When we make prayer a consistent part of our lives, we're choosing to place our trust in God each day. Over time, this habit deepens our relationship with Him, reinforcing our confidence in His presence and promises. The sacredness of prayer lies in its ability to connect us with God, to bring peace to our hearts, and to shape us into stronger, more faithful people. By setting aside time each morning, we open ourselves to the guidance, strength, and clarity that only God can provide. This dialogue with God becomes a daily anchor, reminding us of His constant love and empowering us to face each day with renewed purpose. Seeking God's kingdom first. In Matthew 6 verse 33, Jesus urges us to seek first His kingdom and His righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. This verse is a powerful reminder to prioritize our relationship with God over everything else in life. Yet, in today's fast-paced world, the struggle to balance work, family, personal goals, and responsibilities often pulls us in multiple directions, making it challenging to put God first. However, seeking God's kingdom above all else brings a unique sense of purpose and alignment to every area of our lives. In my experience, when I place God's will at the forefront of my choices, everything else seems to fall into place in ways I hadn't anticipated. There's a deep peace in knowing that my life is aligned with a purpose far greater than my own desires. This doesn't mean that all challenges disappear or that everything becomes easy, but it means that even in the midst of life's complexities, I have an inner stability and clarity that come from trusting in God's plans. The struggle to prioritize. It's easy to get caught up in daily life, focusing on material goals, professional success, or social approval. However, when we chase these things without grounding ourselves in God's purpose, they often leave us feeling empty and restless. I've learned that seeking God first doesn't necessarily mean giving up on personal dreams or ambitions. Instead, it means inviting God into these areas and aligning them with His will. For instance, there was a period when I was facing a major career decision. I was offered a role that seemed ideal in many ways, promising financial security and a certain level of prestige. But as I considered it, I felt an inner conflict. Something about it didn't feel aligned with my deeper purpose. I took time to pray and seek God's guidance, asking Him to show me the right path. Through prayer, I felt led to choose a different path that, while less lucrative, was far more fulfilling and in tune with my values. This decision brought me a peace and sense of purpose that I hadn't felt in a long time. Choosing God's guidance over my own understanding. There's a particular story that illustrates this principle in my own life. A few years ago, I was at a crossroads, facing a decision that would significantly impact my family and career. My heart was set on one option, one that seemed promising and exciting. However, I felt an urge to pause and seek God's direction rather than simply following my own inclinations. Through prayer and reflection, I sensed a clear answer to pursue a different path, one that I hadn't initially considered. Making this choice wasn't easy. It required me to let go of my own understanding and trust in God's greater plan. But once I made the decision, I experienced an overwhelming sense of peace and assurance. The months that followed confirmed that this was the right choice, as I saw countless blessings unfold that I couldn't have orchestrated on my own. Looking back, I'm grateful that I chose to prioritize God's guidance because it led to a path that enriched my life in ways I hadn't anticipated. Aligning with God's purpose. When we seek God's kingdom first, our lives are transformed from the inside out. Prioritizing God helps us view life's challenges from a new perspective. Instead of feeling overwhelmed by worldly pressures, we gain confidence and clarity, knowing that we're following a path aligned with God's will. This alignment doesn't mean abandoning our personal dreams, but it means reshaping them in a way that reflects God's love, truth, and purpose. Choosing God's kingdom is not a one-time decision, it's a daily practice of aligning our hearts with His will. Each time we prioritize His guidance over our own desires, we open ourselves to the blessings that come from living in harmony with His purpose. This journey often requires us to be patient, to trust in His timing, and to embrace His wisdom over our limited understanding. Finding peace through submission. Through experiences like these, I've learned that prioritizing God's kingdom brings a deep sense of peace and fulfillment. When we place our trust in Him, our anxieties diminish, and we're reminded that He holds every detail of our lives in His hands. This peace isn't based on external circumstances, it's rooted in the assurance that we are walking in alignment with a plan far greater than our own. As we continue to seek God's kingdom first, we'll find that He provides for our needs, often in unexpected ways. Our lives take on a new depth, a new purpose, and a greater sense of joy. When we let go of our need to control every outcome and instead prioritize God's will, we discover a peace that surpasses understanding, the peace that anchors us even in the midst of life's uncertainties. By choosing to seek God's kingdom first, we open ourselves to His guidance, allowing Him to shape our lives in ways we never could have imagined. This choice brings clarity, purpose, and fulfillment that go beyond the fleeting rewards of worldly success. It's a choice that leads us to live each day in alignment with God's love, and it transforms every moment into an opportunity to reflect His kingdom here on earth. Trusting in God's provision. In Proverbs 3 verses 5 to 6, we're reminded to trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your paths straight. This verse speaks to the profound act of releasing our need to control outcomes and instead placing our trust in God's wisdom and timing. Trusting in God's provision can be challenging, especially when we're facing uncertainties, but time and time again, I've seen how letting go and allowing God to lead opens doors I could never have anticipated. The freedom of letting go. When we rely on our own understanding, we often feel weighed down by pressure and doubt. We question whether we're making the right decisions or if things will work out as we've planned. But when we shift our perspective and trust that God is guiding us, we experience a sense of peace and freedom, knowing that we're not carrying the burden alone. One of the most surprising lessons I've learned through trust is that when I let go of my expectations, God's provision often exceeds anything I could have imagined. There's a story that stands out for me, a time when I was struggling with a major life choice. I was searching for direction, feeling unsure and apprehensive about the future. Despite my worries, I prayed and decided to trust God's timing, even if it meant waiting longer than I was comfortable with. Trusting in God's timing. A few years ago, I was on the verge of making a significant career change. I was feeling restless in my current role, and when an opportunity came up that seemed like the perfect fit, I was ready to jump at it. However, after praying and seeking guidance, I felt an unusual nudge to pause and wait, even though this seemed counterintuitive. It was hard to hold back, but I decided to trust that God had a reason for the delay. Several months later, a new and unexpected opportunity arose, one that I hadn't even considered. Not only was it a better fit for my skills and passions, but it also aligned perfectly with my personal values and long-term goals. Looking back, I realized that had I taken the first opportunity, I would have missed out on this one that was so much more fulfilling. Trusting God's timing didn't make sense to me at the time, but the outcome was far beyond what I could have planned myself. This experience taught me that when we surrender to God's provision, we often find doors opening in ways we hadn't anticipated. Learning to trust in uncertainty. Trusting in God's provision is not always easy, especially in situations where we crave control and certainty. But I've learned that when I step back and allow God to lead, I find a path that's aligned with His purpose and filled with blessings. This doesn't mean there won't be challenges or moments of doubt along the way. Trusting God means acknowledging that we don't see the full picture, but we believe that He does. Another lesson in trust came during a challenging season in my life when I faced a series of disappointments. Each time a door closed, I felt frustrated and began questioning my path. However, as I continued to pray and surrender these worries to God, I began to see small signs of His guidance. Doors started opening in unexpected ways, and I found myself on a new path that brought me peace and joy, even though it looked different from what I had originally envisioned. Encouragement for the journey of trust. Trusting God isn't a one-time decision, it's a continuous journey. Each day, we're invited to let go of our anxieties, our doubts, and our need to control outcomes, and to place them in God's hands. When we do this, we often find that God's provision comes through in the most unexpected ways. It might be a new job, a relationship that brings unexpected joy, or even a moment of clarity that shifts our perspective entirely. If you're facing uncertainty or feeling the weight of a big decision, I encourage you to lean on God's wisdom rather than your own. Allow Him to guide you and trust that He knows the way, even when it's not clear to you. Trusting in God's provision is not passive, it's an active, rewarding part of our faith journey that invites us to grow closer to Him. As we learn to trust, we discover a peace that goes beyond understanding and a faith that becomes stronger with each step. God's provision isn't always about giving us exactly what we ask for, but rather giving us what we need at the right time and in the right way. When we release control and surrender our path to Him, we open ourselves to the joy and fulfillment that come from walking in step with His purpose for our lives. As we come to the end, Let's reflect on the powerful lessons morning prayer can bring into our lives. By taking even a few moments at the start of the day to connect with God, we invite peace and purpose into our hearts. Morning prayer isn't just a ritual, it's a source of grounding and alignment that can carry us through daily challenges. We see how it centers us in faith, fosters a spirit of gratitude, and shifts our focus from worries to the blessings around us. Each morning prayer becomes a moment to trust God, release our anxieties, and embrace His presence in our lives. To bring it all together, let me share one more story, a recent morning when prayer shifted my day in a remarkable way. I was facing a series of deadlines and feeling overwhelmed just thinking about everything on my plate. That morning, I took a few minutes to pray, asking for calm and clarity. As I prayed, a surprising sense of peace settled over me, and the tasks that had seemed daunting felt manageable. Throughout the day, I noticed how this prayer helped me approach each challenge with a different mindset, rooted in faith and strength. For anyone looking to incorporate morning prayer, remember that it doesn't have to be lengthy or elaborate. Start small, set aside 5 minutes, find a quiet place, and speak to God as you would a friend. Reflect on gratitude, lift up your hopes and worries, and invite His guidance into your day. This simple habit, done consistently, can become a source of strength and connection that transforms your outlook on life. I want to leave you with an empowering message. Each morning we have the choice to begin our day with God, stepping into peace, trust, and purpose rather than fear, doubt, or confusion. When we make this choice, we are grounding our day in something unshakable, knowing that whatever comes, we're not facing it alone. Let each morning prayer bring you closer to God's heart, guiding you through every moment with a faith that can withstand any storm and a love that will always hold you up.
If this message resonates with you, hit that like button and let the universe know you're ready for your breakthrough. Subscribe to our channel for more transformative insights and guidance on your journey to abundance. Share this video with friends and family who need to hear this today. Let's amplify our positive energy together. Your engagement not only helps us grow but also strengthens the cosmic energy we are building as a community. Together, we can uplift each other and manifest our dreams into reality, one positive action at a time.